Flacco in the gun. He's back. He looks. He waits. He throws the pass, and it's intercepted. Troy Polamalu at the 40, 35-30, and he's in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Touchdown. He got to the goal line. Touchdown. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown wills himself across the chalk. You gotta be kidding me.
Hundley holds, steps up. Hundley sacked. T.J. Watt. NFL history.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. It is Ravens week. If you are not amped up for this one, don't bother watching the program as you saw some of the greatest memories between this rivalry. The Steelers, though, have won 4 straight against the Ravens, but 2 very different teams that will be meeting at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday. Let's welcome in who is joining us to break it down today, Mike Prisuta of the DVE Morning Show, and also Craig Wolfley of the Steelers Radio Network. And we don't know exactly who the quarterback's going to be, guys. I think we know it's probably going to be Tyler Huntley. But what changes with their offense and how do they stop him, Mike?
You know, I think the biggest thing, if the Denver game was any indication, Huntley kind of got thrown in that one. So perhaps with a week of preparation, he'll be a little bit different. But the passing was quick, and it was short, and it was sideways. He threw it a bunch, but the vast majority were either just behind the line of scrimmage, just at the line of scrimmage. Wolf, that 4 or 5 yard range between the chains. Right. I don't know what you call that. It's still a short pass to me. I'd move people up and challenge them to beat me deep. I know they've got some speed at receiver, but they don't have a track record of hitting home runs. So challenge them would be my suggestion.
Indeed, and you're right on, Mike. And the guy we just saw on the film, that's Mark Andrews, the tight end. He is the guy that right now is a primary target, primary consideration. A guy that has shown up very well in this early part of this, well, throughout the season. But certainly, yeah, Tyler Huntley's a guy that he's got all the qualities of Lamar Jackson, but he was not an NFL MVP, as you pointed out so distinctly before we got started in this. But he still has.
Yeah, full disclosure,
yeah.
Our show prep, Missi asked me what's the difference between
exactly.
Huntley and Lamar, and I said Huntley has not won an NFL MVP.
There you go, which was a great report.
Nothing gets by me, Wolf.
That's right.
In terms of running, we know Lamar likes to use his legs. Who else do we have to worry about in terms of their offense?
Pretty much whoever they throw back there, they have kind of the same thing the Steelers are going on. They have 2-3 guys even without J.K. Dobbins. And Huntley will not be shy about it. He will scramble run, and they have some read option stuff and some design stuff that he'll take advantage of as well. One thing you got to be careful about, and probably Huntley's got to be a little bit careful too, when he gets out scrambling, he trusts his arm to the degree that he will attempt to make one of those flick of the wrist throws when you don't necessarily have your feet set or your shoulders square. And sometimes he'll throw the ball out there maybe in a manner he should not. And I think there might be some turnover opportunities. But I guess the point I'm laboring to make, when he takes off, don't assume he has just taken off and the pass part of it is out of the equation now.
No doubt about it, yes. He will unload just before contact and do so, several times in the game. But the fact of the matter is, he doesn't go long. He throws short. They do a lot of sideways stuff, like you said, the now routes, wide receiver screens, all that. But they have a good rushing attack. And they will run Gus Edwards and a number of other guys through there. And they have an unusual fullback or H-back or part-time nose tackle. I mean, Patrick Ricard is a lot of fun to watch because they do unusual things with this guy. They offset him from the H-back. He'll be the lead guy in a trap, which nobody ever does, but they will do it with him because he's 300 pounds, for crying out loud. Or they'll have him as the trail guy on the counters, the pin and pull series. The other things that they'll do, I've never seen it with any other team, but normally if you have a center and one guard and you do a double team and scoop block on a nose tackle, they've actually used him as the guard. He will line up behind by the quarterback, and he'll go instead of the guard will go up and get a second level guy, but he'll scoop with the center, and I've never seen that before.
Yeah, he could probably play guard. He has played some defensive line.
He's played nose tackle.
Rushed a little bit. But are you seeing what I'm seeing in that less window dressing from Baltimore than in years past, the fakes and the human tricks with the ball. But usually if they're running it, if you just follow number 42, the ball is probably
he goes where the ball's
going behind him.
There's no doubt
no matter
about
what
it.
they do before that.
There's no question about that. And you're still going to have to honor the mesh point. You still have to decide on every play whether you're going to crash it, whether you're going to slow play it. You got to be in tune with the end man on the line, with the linebacker, so everybody knows, because if you crash it, you got to bring that linebacker around and scrape. So
if I wouldn't slow play anything in this game,
yeah,
I'd go 1,000 miles an hour, because I think they're going to be doing the same thing.
I think that's what's coming. But I will say this, you've got to make sure that you're communicating, because whether you've got zone or whether you got man, it changes things, and it's certainly going to be at the point of emphasis, making sure that you guys, that they attack that mesh point correctly.
Triv, do you see Mark Andrews being a security blanket almost for Tyler Huntley if he gets the start?
In theory, although he's been playing banged up. He's got 2 or 3 injuries, and his numbers are down significantly from, I think it was 3 weeks ago. I might be off by a week or 2 either way, but he's out there gutting it out and trying to be the guy who he is, and they still look to him at crunch time. But I think he's banged up, and I think the Ravens know that, and I think they're going to respond accordingly. I certainly on a critical 3rd down, I'd probably consider him option number 1, but I don't know that he's going to be the Mark Andrews we've seen in the past.
He might well not be, but he's still got just under 700 yards in total reception yardage. I look at it this way. How's your pain tolerance at the moment you're needed?
Yeah.
Because that's when it might be decided.
Probably a lot with what TJ Watt's got going on right now.
Exactly so.
Is he going to get 3 sacks? I don't know. But
right.
Are they going to be worried about him more than anybody else when it's crunch time? Probably.
Well, it's like the Toby Keith song. I'm not as good as I once was, or I'm as good once as I ever was. Now, it's not that he wasn't, but the whole gist of it is, at that moment, can you draw upon your resources to be able to get the job done? And that's what worries me about a Mark Andrews.
Well, who's somebody on the Steelers defense that should have a big day on Sunday?
Wow. Steelers defense, did you say? You look at this, and it depends if Ronnie Stanley's going to be back in the lineup. Alex Highsmith would be one guy that I would point to. It would also be obviously TJ, however TJ's feeling, if he's able to. But certainly that's a good offensive line that the Ravens have in front of them. And I always think that Minkah is always such a big threat, and I think the possibility of what they can do with him, depending if it's Lamar Jackson or Tyler Huntley.
Particularly if we see what we've seen the last couple of weeks, where they're not as necessarily worried about the deep ball, and they get him more up in the box, free him up from that center fielder role, which he plays really well. But we've seen Terrell Edmonds back there in single high. We have seen DeMonte Casey back there in single high. Sometimes it's Casey deep, and by the way, against this running team, the 3 safety thing has a nice ring to it.
It does.
If you're Pittsburgh, but get Terrell Edmonds and Fitzpatrick up near the line of scrimmage, and maybe get on some read and react, search and destroy, whatever you want to call it.
You're exactly
free
correct.
him up to go hunt a little bit.
Absolutely, and Minkah's the guy. I mean, he's got that ball hunting acumen, that samurai sixth sense that enables him to make those spectacular plays at the end of the game, swoop in like a giant eagle, and boom, get that ball. Even to the point where you got enough brains to get out of bounds instead of running for a touchdown. It took me at least 10 seconds after he ran out of bounds to understand why he ran out of bounds. Like, wow, that's some good game brains there.
All right, it is time now for our Week 14 opening lines presented by Unibet, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app or visit pa.unibet.com. We have much more coming up here on the Matchup Show. We're going to talk about Najee Harris. Can he continue to run angry like we saw in Atlanta? And the keys we need to see for Kenny Pickett. We'll discuss that when we return.
Does it matter that those were...
Welcome back to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. Two quick notes from Steelers and Ravens practice. Lamar Jackson did not practice for the second straight day. He's dealing with that knee injury that knocked him out of the game against the Broncos last week. Also, Chris Boswell, the Steelers started his 21-day window, so we'll have to wait and see if he is activated or if Matthew Wright will continue to kick for the Steelers. All right, guys, let's talk about the Steelers offense. We saw Najee Harris, and I know how much you as an offensive lineman love when they run the ball, but he was running angry, and it just seemed like something possessed him, and it was just a different Najee that we saw last week.
Indeed, and I think it was, he was in the comfort of Mercedes-Benz Dome where he'd had a lot of success. He got a lot of friends and family around, but I think, at this point in time, he's really starting to feel like Najee. He doesn't have the plate in his shoe and the metal in his foot, in the shoe and everything. He's got the acceleration, the power. And the other thing about it, I wouldn't say he was an angry man. He's a burning man. That was like a burning desire. When he spiked Richie Grant, I've seen guys dunk on guys, but I've never seen anybody dunk a guy. That was dunking a guy. That was really impressive. And him showing his capabilities right now in the last, 4 games, I think he's averaging 77 yards in each game. That's just dynamite stuff. And watching him go, aside from the turf monster, it's pretty impressive stuff.
5 straight weeks with over 100 yards rushing for the Steelers. Triv, what do they have to do this week knowing you're going against a tough Baltimore defense?
I'll tell you, this week I think, and just to echo what Wolf was saying about Najee Harris, this looked the most like last year to me in the number of times he ran through the initial contact and kept going. Now, last year, a lot of times, unfortunately, it was behind the line of scrimmage, and it was just to get a gain of 1 or 2 yards. But these are where the 4, 5, 6 yard runs are coming because he's getting to the line and then he's getting through. He's moving the pile, really looking every bit like the guy they expected him to be. But this Sunday, I think one of the key components to the way the Ravens play run defense is how physical their cornerbacks are, particularly Marlon Humphrey, number 44. These guys crash down. They're not just hanging around playing contain in case the play spills out. They want to go in there and make tackles. I think the wide receivers blocking on the defensive back, obviously it's going to be a war in the trenches and the O-line and the D-line. The Steelers O-line is really making great strides. The Ravens have a very good front. They'll play a lot of 5-man front, I think, with the 2 stand-up edges and 3 down linemen. But block those DBs, Wolf. That's where the bigger plays will come from. I'm not sure they're going to break any 30 or 40 yard runs against these guys, but maybe there's some 9 to 15 yarders in there to be found.
And it only happens if you block. I mean, those wide receivers, you've got to. And the fact of the matter is you've got some guys that can penetrate when the Ravens go one gap and so forth. They can kick you right in the tail. But you got to make sure that you seal block and do all the things necessary to make sure that there's no penetration. As I was having a nice couple of Joe and Danish the other day watching the Atlanta Falcons game again because I was enjoying watching the offensive line come off and put people in the dirt. It's very hard to tackle anybody when you're looking at the sky. And that's something that we've not seen on a regular basis early on, but we are seeing a growing number of times where people come off the ball. These guys are coming off. James Daniels came off the ball, took Grady Jarrett, and I'm telling you, it was a good old-fashioned eye hop, show him the sky pancake. It was just dynamite, and you just enjoy it with the second Danish, of course.
Is the O-line becoming a strength of this offense, you think?
No question about it. They're getting better each and every week. You look at the Kenny Pickett going from 44 passing attempts down to 32, but the rushing game comes up. The fact that Kenny's not turning the ball over, and then you take a look at his QBR coming up each and every game, and it has to do also with the fact that he's making timely decisions, getting rid of the ball, and he wasn't sacked in this past game. That's dynamite stuff.
I think they're playing with belief too. I had a chat with Mason Cole the Friday before the Atlanta game, and basically asking him, all right, is the corner turn? Do you think this is sustainable? And he said not only does he think it's sustainable, he had mentioned to Najee Harris and the running backs, hey guys, your time of the year is at hand. Not necessarily in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a dome, but now we're going to be outside in Pittsburgh, and it's starting to be mid-December, and they're going to play in Baltimore, and they're going to play in Cleveland, and bad weather, bad conditions, nasty demeanor to everything. This is the time when the running games can take over. And Cole he regretted they didn't click quicker. They knew going in it was going to take some time. You knew we were talking in training camp, it was going
Right.
to take some time, but they feel like they've got it down now. And I tend to agree with them between the number of backs they can throw at a team and just the way that line's clicking. I think that running game can translate. And Missy, but strength of the team, yeah, maybe the identity that we've all been asking them since September. What is the identity of your offense? I don't think you have to go any further than short yardage. I can't quote you the numbers, but it's much more effective. And when you're watching the game, now it's 3rd and 1, you're probably thinking, hey, they can do this. Whereas maybe before, I know I was thinking, oh my God, what are they going to come up with now to gain a yard?
And again,
I'm not thinking like that anymore.
Exactly. The beauty of it is when you see people in the dirt. For an offensive lineman, that's like scoring a touchdown. When you can press some dude to his back, and then he's got to look at you while he's getting up. Can you just let him know, I've been here and I'll be here again? You know what I mean? And that is something that really comes across, and I love it. And I love the physicality because you look at the Ravens are going to come after Kenny. Now, they're not a big blitz team, all right, but they're going to test Kenny. But Kenny is smoking it against the blitz.
Get a little closer to their goal line, they'll come.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. They are a high-intensity team. They've got, their 4th, 5th most sacks in the league. They're going to come after him.
But I think, this might be a little off point. I don't know if we're going to get to this or not, but I'm going to go there now. The way the two inside backers, Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith, they really attack that running game. And I think there's some plays to be made behind them in the passing game, either with a tight end, Pat Fryermuth maybe, or if you can get a running back in there. It seems to me that they cover the flats very well because they can both run and they're going forward most of the time. But get that run game going a little bit, give them a little play action, and then think over their heads.
That's exactly it.
Whatever that 10 to 15 yard range is. I don't know if you call that deep or short or middle, but I think there's some stuff there that the Steelers can take advantage of if they can get to it.
No question, especially if they go 2 safeties high. You got those guys attacking downhill, play fake. With the heavy running game emphasis of the last 4 weeks, that should be a killer right in there. And Fryermuth is he's number 3 in the league and in the most amount of 3rd down catches. He's got like 15 catches on 3rd down. This guy has become a real go-to for Kenny, and I see where this can really lead to some great stuff down the stretch here.
Dulcich, the rookie tight end for Denver, had a big game against Baltimore to the extent that they actually moved Marlon Humphrey a couple times on him late in the game because they're having such a hard time stopping that play. So something to consider. I think this could be a big Pat Fryermuth game.
Absolutely, no question about it.
In terms of Kenny Pickett, Mike, we talk about him every week. Coach Tomlin is asked about him every week and the improvement. Is there something specific he has to do for the Steelers to get the win on Sunday?
Maybe make one more play, Missy. The one I'm thinking about from the Atlanta game is the deep. No, it wasn't really deep. It was from about the 28-yard line, but the post to Pat Fryermuth that was there for a touchdown, and he just missed it. I also thought he had George Pickens in the corner running to the corner of the end zone. I think he could have gone there. Chose to go to Fryermuth.
George thought so too.
Yeah, well, but I don't think he needs to improve dramatically. But the one thing that they're still missing is more points, right? I mean, all the numbers are up, the confidence is up, the eye test is up. Everything looks like it's progressing in the right direction. Now, this maybe isn't the game to score 35, or at least go in thinking you're going to score 35. But when you have a chance to get that touchdown instead of settling for 3, that might be the thing that tips it. So just when that play materializes, don't miss. Maybe you'll have to do that one time better than you did it in Atlanta, but that would be significant if you could do it that one more time when it matters.
I'm with you in just scoring a touchdown in the 3rd quarter. I know it does not matter if it happens in the 4th or whatever in the 2nd half. It has just hampered them all season, other than that Jets game when Minka had the interception and basically put the ball right there and on the goal line, and they were able to cash in on that. It's just something that we have not seen. It just feels like that 3rd quarter is where things start to get wonky for the offense.
Does anybody get the feeling that we've moved from the 1st quarter of last year to the 3rd quarter of this year? If you remember last year, I think we had 7 points for like most of the season, and it's just we're all talking about, we got to come out of the gates harder, we got to come out faster, we got to get
they're
some
doing
points.
that now.
Now they're doing it now,
Yeah.
But the problem is you got to do it again when you have that double tap, double tip, sort of thing when you defer the choice.
I don't know. I don't understand why they do that as much as they do, by the way.
What, deferring the choice?
Yeah.
Well, let's hope they get the double score. If you're able to.
How do you know? How many times has that actually happened?
You know, all I know is this.
Where you
I
have
always
the ball
wanted the
left-
ball right away. I didn't want to
So
sit
would
on
I.
the sidelines.
Get after
You
it.
go crazy.
Attack.
Oh, you go absolutely nuts sitting on the sidelines
All right,
waiting.
talk to the captains, Wolf. We're going to put that one on you for the week.
Okay.
You know, one other point about the Baltimore defense. Everybody talks about try to strip the ball. These guys are maniacal about that. Like, when you catch a pass, if you're a rookie, George Pickens, Pat Fryer was probably a little familiar with this. Deontay Johnson knows plenty about it. But these guys are coming for the football, and they're going to be relentless about it, and you got to protect it. The play ain't over when you catch the ball.
They got 20 takeaways, man.
It's not by
they're ball
accident,
hawkers,
yeah.
you know. They come after it.
All right, it's time for our Yinz Chat predictive question of the day. And since we're talking about Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense, you can play at home with us as well. Just download the Steelers official mobile app to play Yinz Chat to win prizes and different things daily. All right, guys, I want your take on this one. Kenny Pickett for passing touchdowns over under 1.5.
You know, this is why I never bet. Because I always want to root for the guy. And Kenny, you got to go over, bud. And we go over, too. You got to go, too.
Under.
Okay.
Oh, the professor of numerology.
Has anybody been watching the games?
Hey, listen, man. I got my hopes.
Well, it's also Steelers-Ravens. It's always like 13-10, 6, it's
Usually,
always
yeah.
some wonky score. I just feel like that's how and Coach Tomlin even said,
Other than that one time that Ben threw for 5 touchdown passes, you could have gone over 4.5 and hit. There would have been some odds there.
Yeah, man, that would have been something.
fair. All
I
right.
wouldn't be sitting here if that was the
All right, I have another over-under for you. We were just talking about Pat Freiermuth. For him, 5.5 receptions.
Over.
All right, I didn't even have
Behind
to say
the line, not huge plays, but I think he can catch a lot of balls
Okay.
and move a lot of chains.
This one, I'm going to do the same. Again, it's over. Plus, if he gets a lot of catches, then he'll be more conversant on Tuesday night.
Oh, so
His
selfishly
show.
you're worried about your
Oh,
radio
yes,
show.
of course. Of course. Why not?
All right, last one for you. Over, under, 1.5
The amount of times the fans
sacks.
chant Muth when Zach Gentry catches a pass.
Yeah, they got to realize, the height difference is there, The 1 and the 8 don't look
Yeah.
alike on the jersey either. Anyway.
Oh, no, it shouldn't be that hard. I mean,
But
pay
that's
a little
okay.
attention.
That's all right. They love their tight ends. Okay. Over, under, 1.5 sacks for the Steelers defense.
Oh, definitely over. Definitely over. We're going over. Because they already owe him one from last year when they had Tyler Huntley.
You're still
yeah,
there.
exactly.
Jeez.
No doubt about it. I'm still bitter about it.
You're hiding it well. I'm going to go over as well because I think that if they get some pressure, Huntley is pretty quick to leave the pocket, but he does not necessarily want to just run when he does that. I think they can run him down from behind a couple of times. He's not Lamar Jackson that way either.
All right, guys, thanks so much. I think we're all ready to go for Sunday. Steelers and Ravens at
ready.
Acrisure Stadium. Thanks so much for
Seriously,
joining
these
us
games are
here
the
on the
best.
Matchup Show presented by Unibet. We'll see everybody here next week.